before we head out, I just want to take a look at a couple of the Week 9 matchups that stood out to us. We're just going to give our quick thoughts and predictions for these games, and then we'll be out of here, out of your hair, and you can continue on with your day. All right, so the first game that I wanted to talk about was the Ravens at the Indianapolis Colts. This is a 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Nick, what are your thoughts for this game? What do you expect to see, and what do you think Lamar Jackson or Phillip Rivers will be able to do?
This is a great matchup. You've got two stalwarts on defense, just going toe to toe and going to make these offenses struggle all game long. I expect this to be very low scoring. I expect it to come down to the wire. I expect the Colts to come out on top, and I'm not a Ravens hater. I'm a Lamar Jackson hater, really. I don't believe in him. I don't think he can get it done in crunch time. We saw it against Pittsburgh. He had the drive. He had the last drive to do it, and he didn't. So I think
Color me shocked.
I mean, it bothers me to watch Lamar Jackson throw a football because he can't. I could throw a better football than him. I I think that as bad as Phillip Rivers is, he can get the job done. He can get the job done with guys named Zach Pascal, Jordan Wilkins, Naeem Hines. I mean, we're going to see some somersaults in the next game for sure. I think that it's not going. I don't think it'll be pretty, but it's going to be. If you're a true football fan, you're going to like this game because it's going to be very, very tough, very defensive heavy. It's going to be a good matchup for each other. But again, I still think the Colts are going to come out on top. I can't trust Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Colts are tough. Their defense is going to swarm Lamar Jackson, kind of like the Steelers did. I think the Steelers gave a really good impression of what can happen. And the Colts defense is much more athletic, much faster, much longer. They can defend really well.
I think they're better against the run.
They are better against the run. So it's going to be interesting. Again, no Mark Ingram this week. So it's going to be up to J.K. Dobbins and the Gus Edwards with Lamar Jackson. It'll be interesting. Phillip Rivers is my X factor in this game because Phillip Rivers, he can be great or he can just be a dud. I don't exactly know which one you're going to get week to week. So if the Colts struggle and this ends up being a Ravens blowout, it's simply because of the fact that Phillip Rivers did not show up for this game. I hope that's not the case. I expect a great game. I expect, like you said, a very low-scoring game, something that we can look forward to there. But overall, this is going to be a battle test of, I think it's going to come down to the trenches. The Ravens D-line versus the Colts O-line, and the Colts D-line versus the Ravens O-line. Which one is going to get the push, and that'll decide the outcome. All right. The Chicago Bears at the Tennessee Titans. This is an interesting game because these are two big question mark teams. We thought we had each team figured out. We thought that for the Bears, Nick Foles was going to be the answer because Mitchell Trubisky got benched, and even though they were 2-0 at the time, Mitchell Trubisky just wasn't doing well. Nick Foles hasn't been much better, even though they're paying him a buttload more money. And then on the other side of the coin, you have the Tennessee Titans, who are on a 2-game losing streak, losing to the Cincinnati Bengals last Sunday, which was a major shocker around the league. To the point where people are just sitting there scratching their head saying, what the hell is going on with the Tennessee Titans? My initial thought is that the Chicago Bears defense is going to be they're going to swarm Ryan Tannehill because he doesn't have great pocket awareness. He doesn't have the ability to escape the pocket properly. And I think that's going to be a big struggle. Their number one priority, obviously, is going to be stop Derrick Henry. And then they're going to just continuously pass rush. I think they're going to leave a lot of one-on-one matchups on the outside. Corey Davis and A.J. Brown are going to have to win their one-on-one matchups. Maybe one or two safeties on every so often, but they're going to bring the house. Chicago is. So it'll be very interesting to see. On the other side of the coin, I think Chicago's offense is just atrocious. If Tennessee can stop Allen Robinson, this game is all but over because David Montgomery doesn't know how to run a football, and that offensive line is suspect at best. So outside of those guys, and possibly even just Jimmy Graham, I don't know what the Bears can do on offense to score points. So
I'm going to make a bold prediction here.
Oh,
I'm gonna say that Nick Foles gets pulled partway through the game, and Mitchell Trubisky leads them for the W. Mm-hmm. I think Trubisky is making his return this week. I think that he is going to take the job back from Nick Foles. And I think that the Bears are the better team. I think Tennessee has struggled too much this season. Where is Jadeveon Clowney? Where is Vic Beasley? What have they done? Absolutely nothing. I'll
tell you what they've done. They were signed for $24.5 million total. They have 0 sacks and 16 total tackles. That's what they've done.
So a little less than $1 million, or a little bit more than $1 million to tackle. I like it.
Nice.
I like that math as a player. This Tennessee defense is not what it was last year. I don't know what Mike Vrabel has done. If COVID just got the best of him this year, but
is it the loss of Logan Ryan? Is he that special to that defense? I mean, they
did just trade for Desmond King. We can't forget that. So Desmond King might help them, but Desmond King was never like a difference maker.
He wasn't even like that. He wasn't a DB necessarily. Like he helped in in certain situations when they had 4 corners on the field. But other than that, I mean, he's a special teams ace. Like he's not a guy that you should be relying on in your defensive backfield for help, especially when you have Malcolm. Oh my God, what's Malcolm's last name?
Butler.
Thank you. Malcolm Butler, Kevin Byard, and who's the other safety they got over there?
They have Kevin Byard.
Yep.
And I'm blanking on the second one.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just Kevin Byard.
Either way, the Tennessee Titans defensive backfield was supposed to be a strength, and right now, Adoree Jackson not doing anything.
Well, he just came back from injury, so I think, and he did a pretty good job against Tyler Boyd last week. So, I think he'll get better as he gets more into football.
Possibly, but again, he's another guy where he shouldn't be relied upon as your CB1 or CB2. I mean, that was what.
Well, Adoree Jackson is a straight slot. He's a nickel corner, and I think Desmond King is going to play opposite Malcolm Butler or opposite Jonathan Joseph. I don't know exactly what's going on with their secondary right now and what Mike Vrabel's trying to do with this new acquisition. It's going to be interesting, but again, Desmond King is not a difference maker. Malcolm Butler is not performing well. Jonathan Joseph is a shell of himself. Adoree Jackson is just coming back. I think that the Chicago receivers should have an easy time. Darnell Mooney has speed to take the top off the defense. Allen Robinson is going to be a tough matchup for whatever outside corner wants to match up against him. He's going to get a ton of targets in this game. And I think that you have Jimmy Graham, who has the most targets in the red zone. I think that he could play a factor, and I'm still holding out. I think David Montgomery has the ability to break one of these runs off. I think that he's going to do it at some point. So
this is an interesting timing that we're talking about this game. This was not pre-planned. I just got a notification the Titans will be releasing Vic Beasley on Wednesday from his contract. On top of that, they have also released veteran cornerback Jonathan Joseph and veteran long snapper Bo Brinkley.
Very interesting moves, and the Vic Beasley one makes sense. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but before the season or right before the season started, he was showing up to practice late. He wasn't participating, like he wasn't giving 100%. And so it seemed like right from the get-go it wasn't going to work out. I was surprised that he was on the team this long, and I don't really know where Vic Beasley goes, but that's a talk for another time. Now we know where Desmond King fits in. He becomes the clear-cut number 2, and he'll play he'll play either on Allen Robinson some plays, or it'll be Malcolm Butler the entire time. We'll have to yet to see. And now I guess there's more of a clear role for Jadeveon Clowney. Maybe he plays more defensive end now that Vic Beasley's gone and doesn't just stand up the entire time.
It's going to be interesting. The Tennessee Titans making some moves outside of the trade deadline. There was a whole hell of a lot to break down there. But overall, like I said, the Titans are in a predicament. They cannot lose a third straight game, especially to the struggling Chicago Bears. If they end up losing this game, they're going to be in a very, very precarious predicament in which they might be overtaken in their division. And no one, I mean, the Colts are there. The Houston Texans aren't out of it. They have competition, and the Tennessee Titans don't look like the team that they had last year. It should also come to mind the loss of Taylor Lewan has kind of sparked this issue. They lost Taylor Lewan and then lost the following 2 games. So I have to imagine that has taken a severe hit to the morale and possibly play of this Tennessee Titans football team.
I mean, I'm not completely sold on that just yet. I want to see more time. I think the loss of Taylor Lewan will impact Ryan Tannehill more, and I haven't seen a drop off from Tannehill yet. I think with Corey Davis coming back and AJ Brown there now, I think that this team is going to start getting going.
They also lost Adam Humphries for at least next game for this game.
I mean, he's your number 3 anyway. I don't think he got that many targets. Probably those targets are going to go to Jonnu Smith anyway, or just get split between the receivers they have. I don't think that's a big loss, and I don't think
I know we keep adding on to this conversation, but it should be noted, Jonnu Smith has when he hasn't been targeted in the passing game more than 4 times, they've lost that football game. So I think they need to get him more involved in the passing game.
I think they could do that next week after I don't play Jonnu Smith in fantasy football. But I think the Chicago Bears have the edge in this game. There's a lot going on with the Tennessee Titans right now. We just listed it all, and it just continues to pile on. There's so much going on that isn't related to the game itself. It's a lot for these players and for the coaches to handle. And when
plus all the time that they spent with the COVID stuff, and they've been through hell and back this season. It's we know it's been a weird year. 2020 has not been the year that we all expected. Well, is it? It feels like it's been going for 3 years. But needless to say, we're in a specific situation where the Titans are, I don't want to call it a must win, but it's getting to the point where it's almost a must win situation. All right, we got 2 more games to discuss on the docket before we get the hell out of here. The Seahawks at the Bills. This is going to be an interesting game. Seahawks, they've had some rocky road. They lost Chris Carson. He didn't play last week. DJ Dallas took over because Travis Homer stayed as the pass catching back, and Carlos Hyde is also injured, hampered by a hamstring injury. On top of that, they should be getting Rashad Penny back in the next couple of weeks. Don't know what he's going to look like coming off the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list. So we'll see what that Seahawks. But I mean, when you have Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, it just seems like Megatron 2.0 is just
unfair.
To feast.
It's unfair.
It really is. But that is my game within the game to watch. DK Metcalf and Tre'Davious White going head to head is going to be an extremely tall task for both players. DK Metcalf, we saw what he was able to do against Stephon Gilmore in the Patriots game. He was able to take the top off the defense. His blazing speed kills defenses, and then his absolute mammoth strength to outbody any 50-50 ball should be like, you can't take that away from him. He's got to be double covered at all times.
Yeah, and Tre'Davious White, he's been struggling with injury this year. I don't think that he is going to be able to handle DK by himself. That's not a guy as good as Tre'Davious White is. I don't think you can leave him on an island with DK Metcalf all game. I'd actually probably rather have DK against, I'd rather have Tre'Davious White matched up against Tyler Lockett the entire game. That's a matchup he can handle by himself. Then you can go and double up DK the rest of the game. Hopefully Jamal Adams is coming back this week. We don't actually know yet, but that would be a huge plus for them to stop this run game. I mean, you need Jamal Adams will help to stop Josh Allen from getting out of the pocket. He'll stop Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, who looked great last week. I think that the Seahawks should have an easy time. I don't see this being a good game, really. But because the Bills have been they've been getting weaker and weaker every single week, and the fact that they made the Patriots look like a decent team last week is really scary. That means the Bills are not who we made them out to be. They started out hot, and then they just dropped off. And
I will say this. I'll get just a little caveat to what you just said. Divisional matchups play different. So no matter what you see in a divisional matchup, it usually plays out very different from the rest of the schedule, just for the simple fact that, when you get the team like the Patriots and the Bills together, Bill Belichick has seen Sean McDermott or I guess this would be his fifth time now. So he understands what Sean McDermott's trying to do. There's no secrets between these teams. It's just whoever makes their plays is going to win. It's that simple. But the Seahawks and Sean, they haven't faced off against Sean McDermott. They don't understand necessarily, it's not always black and white when you're watching the film from the previous weeks, what they're trying to do. So it'll be interesting to see how everything changes. I think this game is going to really come down to the arm of Josh Allen. Is he accurate? Can he hit those targets? Well, that's the thing. Can he hit those targets when it counts the most?
No, he's been regressing every single week. Like, he has not looked good.
He started out very high.
He did.
And has come down.
The last month, he looked like the Josh Allen of old. He's not the same guy that we thought that he made a great improvement from year 2 to year 3. And now we're just seeing a bunch of year 2 Josh Allen right now. And I think now we're going to have to settle on the fact that this is who Josh Allen is. This is his ceiling. I think he has peaked. I don't think he's going to, at least in this regime, with who he has at coach, I don't think he's going to improve anymore. He's limiting himself. He's clearly not learning from his mistakes. He's not making any improvements to his game or how he handles himself on the field.
I don't think Brian Daboll was ever, pegged as somebody who was like a QB whisperer. He was never somebody that was going to come in and mold Josh Allen.
How hard should it be for a guy like Josh Allen, who has all of these weapons around him, to not perform better? He has a fantastic defense. He has great receivers. The tight end situation has been a little bit iffy this season, and then he has 2 running backs behind him. I think he should be able to do more. He's too athletic and too gifted to be where he is right now.
Well, and that's the thing. I think he relies a lot on his athleticism and his gifts to be able to play the game rather than his ability. He hasn't worked on the mechanics. He hasn't worked on his precision passing. He's focused on, my speed to get out of the pocket. I got to work on, eluding tacklers and learning how to best protect my body outside the pocket and other things that, say, a Peyton Manning or a Brett Favre or even a Tom Brady never really had to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be a good game for Josh Allen. This is not going to be a good game for the Buffalo Bills in general. This is going to be another This is going to be similar to what we saw the Seahawks do against the Niners. It's going to be a blowout. It's not going to be close. I don't expect anything big from the Buffalo Bills. I just don't think they have what it takes to compete against a guy like Russell Wilson or DK Metcalf. It's the cards are not in their favor in this one.
For sure. All right, we have one more game to get to. For me, the personal highlight of the entire weekend, this will be the New Orleans Saints visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is the second matchup of the season. The first one happened in week 1, where the Saints were able to take down the Buccaneers 34-23. In that game, Michael Thomas, played a little bit, and the Saints have been all over the place since then. So it's been really tough. They haven't had a whole hell of a lot to work off of. It's been the Alvin Kamara show, maybe some Jared Cook sprinkled in, but hopefully they can get Emmanuel Sanders back off the reserve COVID list. They're looking at possibly getting Traquan Smith more involved. But outside of the New Orleans Saints, I want to mainly discuss the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers struggled against the New York Jets. The New York Giants. Nobody struggles with the Jets. The New York Giants gave Tom Brady a dose of reality when they were able to gain pressure on him up the middle. And I mean, it is no secret that Tom Brady struggles when any team brings pressure up the middle. He does not like pressure at his feet. And I think that needs to be noted moving forward in the season. Now, not every roster is going to have a Leonard Williams and, the guys that are going to be able to rush the pass, Dexter Lawrence and such, to get there with just their defensive line. However, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers also add Antonio Brown coming in this season. Now he will be added for the Week 9 roster. Bruce Arians said they're going to look to get him the ball about 10 times, and then if that particular package works, maybe it goes up to 30 times, but it won't be the whole game. But we're going to see a lot of Antonio Brown, whether he's on the field getting targets or if he's a decoy. We don't exactly know what's in store. Regardless, Antonio Brown added to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, already riddled with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones and Rob Gronkowski and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin when he comes back, and Jaden Mickens, who made a splash on Monday Night Football. This Buccaneers, the rich just keep getting richer.
Yeah, this is going to be a different game than Week 1. You can't look at it in the same light. Week 1, the Buccaneers were a brand new team. They had a ton of new players.
Including Brady, like he was one of them.
Well, yeah, Brady. I mean, the guy who leads the offense didn't really know the system fully, and now he has he's much more involved in that offense. He knows the playbook very well now, and you're gaining a guy who was once considered the best wide receiver in the league in Antonio Brown, and a guy who, I don't know if you still watch. I follow this guy on a lot of social medias. I've seen him on football fields over the last few months, and he hasn't lost a beat. He looks like the same Antonio Brown. I expect him, with the way he works, I expect him to be at his full strength by the end of this game. I think that this is a guy who you can't take away his ability to run routes and catch balls and create separation. He is exactly what Tom Brady needs. Tom Brady doesn't need the fastest or the biggest. He needs somebody who can create separation. That's why he loved Julian Edelman so much, was because he was able to create separation and he could throw him the ball really quickly. And that's why we saw that a little bit in that one game he had with New England last season. He got, I believe, 5 or 6 catches on 7 or 8 targets, and I expect
a touchdown.
And you're going to see that, and a touchdown. You're going to see that exact same thing this week. He's going to be utilized in the same aspect. They're living together, so I think that means they're probably just talking about football constantly and getting Antonio Brown incorporated and talking about, hey, which plays do you like? Which routes do you like to run? What do you know? They're talking about all these things, and they have a real friendship that is going to show up on the football field. So that's something that is much bigger than what we've seen, especially in that week 1 game. You might get what? Go ahead.
It should also be noted that Antonio Brown is very familiar with the system. Bruce Arians, the head coach and offensive play caller, or scheme developer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers when Antonio Brown was highlighting Pro Bowl seasons with Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback. Now he upgrades to Tom Brady. He's got one of those great offensive lines again. He's back in Arians' system. I think he's going to shine. He knows his role. He knows the scheme fits, and he understands exactly what this passing attack is trying to do. Maybe just a couple different verbiage here and there, but the overall goal is, he understands exactly what Bruce Arians and company are trying to get done.
Yeah, and real quickly, Chris Godwin might be back. I wouldn't count on it for this game because of the finger surgery, and I don't know how much you can really trust him in this game. Gronkowski over the last 3 weeks has turned into the Gronkowski of old. He has, which makes sense. You would think it would take 5 weeks or so for a guy who didn't play for an entire year to get back into football shape. It makes sense. So now you have Gronkowski looking like the old Gronkowski. They didn't see that in week 1. Mike Evans and Tom Brady have more of a connection now. You have the offensive line's working better. The defense, let's talk about the secondary. I mean, the secondary was nothing in week 1, and look at where they are now. This is a top 3 defense in the league, and it's thanks to Sean Murphy Bunting, Carlton Davis, and Jamel Dean. These guys have been balling out for them. Antoine Winfield has been doing great as well as a rookie. I mean, the everything for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is coming together, and they're not even complete yet. This is a scary team, and it shouldn't be a problem for the Saints. Now, I mean, if we want to talk about the Saints real quick,
you mean
it shouldn't be tough for the Buccaneers. If we want to talk about the Saints real quick, like we mentioned earlier in the podcast, they traded away Kiko Alonso and they're getting Quan Alexander, who probably won't be playing this game because he's injured. And we don't know if Michael Thomas is coming back. I mean, he suffered a pretty bad hamstring injury, and they're not going to try to rush him back. If you're getting the New Orleans Saints that we've seen over the last few weeks, it's going to be an easy matchup against the Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can attest to this as well. As watching Tom Brady over the years as a Patriots fan, you know that Tom Brady plays his best games against the best quarterbacks. Sometimes he'll struggle against some weaker opponents.
Yeah.
And that's where, because he can get complacent, but this is where he brings his A game, and I'll expect it.
Right there. I haven't lost him. No, you're right. He elevates his game to match the intensity of the game that he's playing, which has hurt him in certain specific times. When he felt like he was playing a lesser opponent, he didn't necessarily always show out the way he was supposed to. Nonetheless, against a top tier opponent in his division, he's going to try to make a statement. He's trying to show out and show up and make sure that everybody understands that this Buccaneers team is for real, because if they have another showing like they just had on Monday Night Football and the Saints are able to gobble them up and just absolutely obliterate them, we have a lot to talk about next week, because the Buccaneers, they have sold out for this year. They are in a position where half their roster's gone next year, with the salary cap declining anywhere between $20 to $25 million or more. It looks like half of this roster is going to be gutted just because they simply won't be able to afford them under the salary cap. This is their year. If they have to show up and show out, and Brady is on record pace. He's on his pace to hit 50 touchdowns again. And arguably he might be playing his best football ever. He might be playing some of the best football we have ever seen Tom Brady play. And that has, I mean, it does have a lot to do with the weapons around him. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to take anything away from Brady himself. That this is exactly why Tampa Bay brought him in, knowing full well what they had to surround him with. This is the player they were hoping they're getting, and they cashed in big.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady, he's a great player, even at 44 years old or 43. Can't remember how old the Sandman is. But, Father Time. He's still Tom Brady. And unlike the UFC or MMA in general, where, your body can really hurt you, he's not a mobile quarterback. He sits in the pocket. It's up to his arm and his mind to figure out where to put the ball, and it's still working perfectly fine. And he's still going to produce, and he has better weapons than he ever did. This is the best team he's ever played for in his career. Yes, it's better than the 07 Patriots, and we're gonna see at the end of the year why the Buccaneers sold out for this season. It's gonna pay off.
I mean, again, my prediction is that they're the first team in NFL history to host the Super Bowl that they play in,
and they're gonna win it. They're gonna win it.